we're kicking off this podcast with the conversation about the BeyHive, the Swifties, and the Barbies. And
Mm,
so it is a very interesting time in pop culture and in entertainment. And what we're going to do here is have a conversation about a couple of things happening in the live event industry, but also how this has affected theatrical movie going and
mhm.
how this all ties into a couple of different, I would say, phenomenon that have occurred this year, which is quite a unique sort of proposition, just considering the things that we've gotten. But we've talked a lot about the Barbenheimer phenomenon, how much that was a really significant impact on the movie theatrical going business earlier this summer. But on the opposite side of that, what was also happening in the live event concert space were two of the biggest music tours that we've probably experienced in the 21st century, both being
Yeah.
hosted by Beyonce with her Renaissance tour and Taylor Swift with her Eras tour. And so it's been a quite unique sort of year and a set of circumstances, which has caused, I think, one of the biggest economic booms in terms of entertainment in recent
Mhm.
memory, in terms of just the output from these different properties and these different musical artists. And I was reading an article a couple of weeks ago that really caught my interest. And we were also talking about this off podcast, just the touring industry and how things were going specifically with Beyonce and Renaissance. And I found this article that Bloomberg Economics actually published a few weeks ago about the economic impact that we're seeing from not only both Beyonce and Taylor Swift, but also how that coincides with the Barbenheimer phenomenon earlier this summer. And so, from the near 50 concerts that have been held amongst those two artists in North America this year, Bloomberg predicted that they could add over $5.4 billion gross domestic product to the US economy. You add that on
Sheesh.
top of the box office grosses of both Barbie and Oppenheimer, which pulled in about $2.4 billion collectively. And then they also add in other things like merchandise sales and all the different things that happened around the movies, such as the economic boom that might have took place with getting, specific fingernails and different,
Mhm.
merchandise and costumes, the different stores that could have been impacted by that. And they estimate that overall the Barbenheimer phenomenon is projected to add about $3.1 billion in consumer spending, and also from international ticket sales. And so this has been really the summer of these huge concerts, but also this huge movie that's happened. And
Mhm.
now we're in a very interesting time because both Taylor Swift and Beyonce have made the decision to release their concerts as films in movie theaters, which hasn't been done all that much lately. I think a lot of
Mhm.
streaming services have picked up these rights over the past few years, but Taylor Swift kind of kicked off this new, I guess, trend. But I'm a little cautious to use that type of language because I don't know if too many people can do this. But she decided to go directly to AMC theaters and distribute her concert film through them. She didn't work with the studio. She decided to cut out the middleman and just work directly with them. And this past weekend, put her movie, her concert film into theaters for people who either couldn't see the tour or maybe the tickets were a little bit too expensive or whatever. But this gave them another opportunity to see that film. And over the opening weekend, it pulled in $96 million at the North
Sheesh.
American box office, which is now one of the top five biggest openings of the year. And
Wow.
it's just crazy, and there's a lot more to talk about here, of course, with Rihanna, with not Rihanna, but Beyonce and Renaissance as well.
Mhm.
Maybe Rihanna will come, soon enough with
Hopefully.
something like this. But yeah, man, what do you just think about this significant, sort of impact that we're seeing and how these things are sort of starting to speak to each other? Because at
Mhm.
first, we're talking about two different industries. We're talking about live events and films. But now, with these concert films coming from both Taylor Swift and Beyonce, we're seeing that theaters, especially now in the fall, are starting to kind of be resurrected again after Barbenheimer was really the last significant event in theaters that I think any of us ever experienced. So, what do you think about just all these connecting pieces and how we're seeing this picture play out?
Oh, it's so interesting, especially again coming from such I think a period of time in I think movie going and even concerts that again COVID had everything so dead and so quiet. And here we are now kind of in a, as Beyonce would say, clearly a renaissance of everything that's happening. And it's it's still blowing my mind because a lot of this is still unprecedented. I think is what makes it so interesting, right? And so I have to look at and look at this and be like, man, are the girls saving everything? Like Barbie is the girls, Taylor Swift is the girls, Beyonce is the girl. You know, are the girls saving everything? Are women really saving the theaters and concert going and all of these things.
Apparently, women have money to spend.
Women have money to spend, man. And something I really like about this is the idea of when you do come to a Barbie, right? When everyone's going out buying the pink and want to go to the movies, when everyone is going to Renaissance and Beyonce's like, look, y'all, I want y'all to wear chrome and silvers and all these things. I love how it goes into the economics that a little goes a long way, right? It's not like everybody went outside and bought $500 worth of chrome and pink. You know what I mean? It's like, oh no, everybody got their little fit together, and that is still contributing, I think, to the picture at large. I love that idea of like a little goes a long way. I think in that point of view, man. But man, this is some really cool stuff we're seeing, because usually standom and fandom don't come packaged this way, right? The fandom and standom don't come packaged in a I'm about to go see the Taylor Swift concert film. I can't even remember the last time somebody was talking about I'm gonna go see a concert movie and everyone was excited for it. You know what I'm saying? Like I really can't put my finger on it.
Maybe Justin Bieber, but that was a long time ago. Maybe that.
Long time ago. Maybe there was like a One Direction. I don't even know if there was a One Direction
Yeah,
movie. You know what I
maybe.
mean? Maybe some K-pop movies, some BTS movies. I really don't know. But seeing how Taylor Swift and Beyonce are getting people between, in these seats for the movie theaters for a concert, it's crazy to me. It's just not something that happens, and I do feel like it's something about the energy that is carrying over from Barbenheimer. That's like, y'all, the movies is in. Like I think, not saying that I'm not taking anything away from Taylor Swift or Beyonce here, but I feel like Barbenheimer helped propel people to be like, hell yeah, I'll go to the movies to watch Taylor Swift and Beyonce. You know what I mean? It feels like a push is happening for people to go to these big events. And I think Barbie felt like an event. Oppenheimer felt like an event. And now two of the biggest concerts happen of all time, right? Between Taylor Swift and Beyonce. And now they're just moving their event to the theater, which Barbenheimer just existed. And I don't know, it all feels connected and it all feels kind of really cool at the same time. But overall, it's fandom in these big events that people feel like they have to go to. It also almost feels like FOMO, right? It feels like if I don't go see Taylor Swift movie, am I missing something? If I don't go see Renaissance, am I missing something? Barbenheimer was the same way. The hype was so crazy that some people were in the theater just because they didn't want to miss out on talking about Barbenheimer. It had to be the thing you talked about. And now it feels like that's also happening with Taylor Swift and Beyonce, man. So yeah, it's really cool that we're here in this moment. I think kind of seeing again these events play out, but man, it feels it's just different. I don't know. It's not what we expect the movies to look like in concert films. You know what I mean? And in Barbie, in Oppenheimer. You know what I mean? It's just not. It's very all new territory.
I'm a walking example of FOMO. I decided to go see the Eras tour, which I should say I have no interest in Taylor Swift. I do not listen to her music. I respect her as an artist,
Mm-hmm.
but knowing that that movie was coming out and knowing the conversation that was happening around it, I was like, damn, should I go see this and just like see what's happening out here? Like, what am I missing? And so I went to the
Yeah.
movies. I didn't go to the actual tour. I can't go to that level, but I did go to the movies to just watch it and experience it. And I'll talk a little bit about that later, but that is a part of it. I think a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
are sort of pressured by that experience, whether it's with her, whether it's with Barbenheimer or Renaissance, like all these things are such massive events in which everybody's talking about them
Mm-hmm.
and they're all happening at the same time, which almost never happens where you're simultaneously getting the biggest concerts of the past 10, 15, 20 years and also the
Exactly.
biggest movie event that we've seen in the past decade happening pretty much at the same time. It's a rare thing, and now the theatrical connection I think is really what interests us in this conversation because now it is all feeling even more intentional and even more connected in that way. But I mean, look, the pandemic did do a lot to take away all these experiences, right? There's the whole motto about revenge spending, people wanting to spend their money after not being able to for so long on these experiences. Of course, experiential marketing and big event experiences are back in. And overall, the live event business is doing significantly better this year, even than it did pre pandemic. I think numbers just dropped this week saying that spending has already surpassed numbers from 2018, 2019, and we still got two
Wow.
and a half months left in the year. So that's telling you that people want to spend their money to go to these experiences. Now, a lot of us, student loans are kicking back in. I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to do this. It's going to be it's going to be probably a quiet winter and a quiet 2024. But while we could, people were like, look, I'm gonna go live this experience. I'm going to Renaissance. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna try to get the best tickets possible, or the Eras tour, or whatever the case may be. If they didn't spend
Yeah.
money on the concert, as you noted, and as we talked about, they're going out to dress up and cosplay and do these incredibly elaborate fits and wardrobe to really fit in with the entire aesthetic that these cultural movements are starting to like really open up for us. And so I think it's just really a testament to building these experiences and ensuring people want to come out to experience them. And if you have
Mm-hmm.
something that people feel like they need to see, they will show up. Now, it also should be said that Beyoncé and Taylor Swift are in a class of their own. They are in a separate
Right.
league entirely from
Mm-hmm.
every other musician pretty much on planet Earth. I don't think anybody else can pull off what they're pulling off, because they're both on pace to have the two highest grossing music tours in history,
Mm-hmm.
period. And Taylor Swift is likely surely going to get there. I mean, she's even going to supersede everybody by hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, because her star is just shining so bright at this point. But both of them went years without having music and
That's
tours, and
true.
they went a while without being able to service their fans in that way. And so there is that idea of FOMO. But I do want to talk about this Eras tour specifically, because this is the first concert film that we have. We know that the
Mm-hmm.
Renaissance film is going to be coming this December, but there was a lot of conversation coming into Eras about how it was going to perform, what was it going to do theatrically. We already know, again, the tour is boosting the US economy in so many significant ways. I've read so many stories about Taylor going to different towns and contributing to food banks, and she was able to gift out $55 million in bonuses to her entire tour crew, all these
Wow.
different cities that she's visited. I mean, this is a stadium tour unlike anything we've really seen in the 21st century. I mean, she's packing out SoFi Stadium for 6 straight nights. That's just
That's
unprecedented.
insane.
It's
Yeah, it's
insane.
insane.
Like, nobody can do that. That's really
Yeah.
incredible, that she's able to pull that off. And so on the other side of it with the film, I think people were curious, like, well, what's this going to perform and do? And before the movie even came out, analysts were predicting that it was going to surpass $100 million in advanced ticket sales, and it did. It surpassed $100 million again for a concert movie. This just does not happen. I think before this, the
Crazy.
highest grossing concert movie was "This Is It" by Michael Jackson, which makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. It was Michael Jackson right after his death. People really wanted to experience that, but selling $100 million in advanced ticket sales for a concert film in any day and age is crazy, and that exists amongst
Mm-hmm.
the highest opening weekends. And as of a couple of Mondays ago, more than 4,200 of the showtimes were considered sold out of the overall 13,000 showtimes. So that equates to about 32%. And it made them essentially add on Thursday night showings, because they didn't initially plan for that. And if
Mm-hmm.
you compare that to Barbie only had about 500 sold out showings on the first night. So 4,200 compared to 500. So it definitely was selling out many seats, many auditoriums all across the world. But it was really a really fascinating experience to see that story take shape. Now, it came out on the other side with $96 million, a little bit under, I think, what projections were saying. But I think a lot of that is probably due to the fact that most of the advanced ticket sales were making up the number that we ended up seeing. But it did pull in another $32 million from international markets. It's going to have a larger international rollout in a couple of weeks here once she hits the road again. But as you look specifically at Taylor Swift's concert tour and the Eras tour, and you just start to see these numbers and how it's
Mm-hmm.
starting to paint that picture. I mean, again, outside of Beyonce, can anybody else pull this off? And if not, what do you think that this even means for movie theaters and just the experimentation that they maybe could undergo? Because this is something unique in which she worked directly with AMC to produce this film. So what does this mean for the business of the theatrical going sort of business and what they can perhaps launch in the future?
And Taylor Swift, what a different beast, man. She really is. It is what it is. Her fandom is it's absolutely out of this world. Like you said, is her and Beyonce are really in a league of their own. The only other person in my mind that's even on track to do any of this is Bad Bunny,
Pretty
who's
much.
also a superstar. But man, it it the thing that is on my mind is something you said earlier, that this is all happening in the same year. Like Barbie, Eisenheimer, Renaissance, and Eras, and Taylor Swift. This is all happening. This is like really insane to me, man. But Taylor Swift, I think, she's always had a consistency to her, even though she hasn't, released music in a couple years. She's always had like a, oh, Taylor Swift is coming at some point. She's coming at some point. And I think the ramp up, as Renaissance with Beyonce too, the ramp up this time is just leading to it's paying dividends for her. It's all different this time. It feels like that for Beyonce too, to be honest. It all feels different this time. And Taylor Swift is, again, they are understanding, I think, the intersections of which they all exist, right? Taylor Swift is like, man, this tour is fire. I could just make a movie. And I know the tour is going to be fire, but I could also make a movie, another stream of revenue. One, there's probably a decent amount of people who's never got to see the tour, like Taylor Swift's tour. Well, they can go see it in theaters now. You know what I mean? There's also a ton of people who want to relive that experience again. It would sit their butts in that chair again to watch the behind the scenes or some songs again or whatever Taylor Swift has constructed or has constructed in her artistry for this film. So I part of me loves. I just love the idea. I wish it's almost a lost art. Like if you look at if you Google like concert movies right now, it's all like Stevie Wonders and you know what I mean, and like all these other
Yeah, the
bands, The
70s, the
Who,
80s, or
Chris Bodie. It's like
Legacy
jazz
acts.
people, and it's
Yeah.
not a lot of Taylor Swift and Beyonce, to be honest. Not enough of them. Like this is very much again a lost art in our time. So I think they are revitalizing it in that way, man. Taylor Swift working directly with AMC. Wow. I mean, like you said, what does this mean for the future? It can mean a lot of things. To be honest, I really like that Taylor Swift is like, I'm not doing this with any other studio. I just know that I want to release this with AMC, the biggest movie company in the world. Let's just do it. I don't want to hear nothing about nobody. I can market myself. I'm Taylor Swift. I don't need Universal. You know what I'm saying? I'm Taylor Swift. What do I need Universal for? And so it helps the theater going business as well though too, because there's AMC's everywhere. Everywhere. It's not like she picked AMC and it was just like the most inaccessible thing in the world either. You know what I mean? It's like, no, this is a very smart theater to go with. They are a lot of the cleanest in terms of, again, how far spread they are and how their theaters look. And so I just like the decision making from Taylor Swift, but also I think this will help the future of how people decide to release some of their projects. Again, especially concerts, right? I see so many people saying like Taylor Swift did it. Does that mean I can do it too? It may not be on her scale, but can I kind of cut out the middleman and just work with AMC? And I believe that helps AMC as a company go farther in general, right? Especially when we talk about AMC was about to be out of here. You know what I'm saying? AMC was not about to exist. Pandemic almost killed the movies for real. Like AMC was high key about to be out of here. And so again, I like this idea to cut out the middleman and give AMC as much as possible when dealing with a project like this. And to be honest, I hope other people, if it makes sense for them, but it's not always going to make sense to go straight to AMC. Let me put that out there. But if it makes sense for them, I hope more people actually choose this route. And I hope AMC gives more people opportunity to choose this route as well.
The turnaround time of this is extremely quick too. She just had those concerts at SoFi. They recorded 3 nights at SoFi for this concert film. That was just in August. And so within 2 months, she was able to
Mm-hmm.
get the film obviously shot, edited, cut together, and packaged in a way that can be sent to, 13,000 screens across the country and just really open this experience up to as many people as possible. It really is a brilliant thing to do. And I think that dying art form of having concert films, go into movies, it's one of those things that is unfortunate, but it's just the nature of streaming, where streaming
Mm-hmm.
became sort of the more appropriate home for concert films and music docs and all of that stuff. And I think it's a shame because I think the art form of the music documentary is taking a hit because of streaming, because anybody can just get a music doc now. Any streaming service can just
Mm-hmm.
throw in a few $1 million and produce something, and most of them aren't that great. It's only a few that would actually be worth revisiting. Whereas like now, with eras and renaissance, these are experiences, and likely probably once in a lifetime experiences, and you noted the fact that this is happening at the same time. It got me really thinking about this. Beyonce and Taylor Swift experiencing this moment at the exact same time, two artists at the apex and the height of their powers. They probably will never be bigger. But I can't even say that, because if anybody's going to surpass all expectations, it would be those two. But it
Exactly.
makes me think about the 80s with perhaps it's Michael Jackson and Prince or Michael Jackson and Madonna. And then you go back
Mm-hmm.
to the 60s, it's probably the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, two artists or two acts that exist at the same time who are unbelievably hot and just, hitting on all cylinders. It rarely happens. And so I think just from an appreciation standpoint, we have to sort of like step back and really take that in and just acknowledge that that's a moment and that's special. That's something to,
Mm-hmm.
be commended, and sort of recognize. I did go see the Eras tour. Now, like I said, I don't listen to Taylor Swift, and I'm not a fan per se, but I do respect her artistry. I do respect obviously how massive she is. She is one of the most recognizable pop figures in the world, and of course, she's been doing this for an incredibly long time, 17 years. Now, I am not the demographic for this movie. And it showed when I showed up to AMC theaters because the numbers came out after the opening weekend and it said that about 80% of moviegoers were women. And I can sit here and attest to the fact that that was the case in my showing when I went. It was pretty much all women. There were a few men, but it was mostly women, mostly younger girls.
Mm.
And this movie elicits a response that is not like a movie. Like I didn't go to AMC thinking this was going to be like a sanctuary, like typical, and that I'm going to sit there and it's going to be quiet. Everybody's phone's going to be away. No, this was a concert in the movies. People were singing. People got up
Mm.
and danced occasionally. Phones were out. I don't know how I feel about phones, but phones were out. People were on reels and Snapchat recording stuff. I mean, snapping flicks. Like it didn't matter. And I think after a while, you kind of surrender yourself over to the experience because it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter, right? And
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, I walked away thinking like, well, one, that was extremely impressive. The tour itself, though I didn't experience live, I can tell it is an incredibly ambitious production. Like it's the whole concept is exploring every era of her career, essentially 10 albums, all divided into specific sections, and it's mind-boggling how much it probably took from the choreography to the singing to the dancing to the costume changes, the sets that they had to
Mm-hmm.
build. Her stamina is ridiculous. The movie is 2 hours and 48 minutes. The concert is likely more than 3 hours in person. And
Mm-hmm.
she didn't miss a beat at all. And she was always on. Now, of course, this is three different performances edited together. So you're going to get the best of the best.
Right.
But I haven't heard anything bad about her performance. Like, I just, her and Beyonce to get out there for that long is just like, it's crazy. Like,
Crazy.
all that to sing at that vocal level and to do all of those costume changes and dancing, it's ridiculous, So I walked away with a new appreciation of Taylor, and I also walked away thinking like, damn, I knew more songs than I thought I did. Like I actually was sitting there, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh wait, this is actually something I
Yep.
remember, and yeah, that
Yep.
album had a whole thing like that was a moment, and she's recorded like 4 pandemic albums, and put them out, and that was kind of what necessitated this tour. She hasn't been able to tour a lot of this music, but man, I walked away just like really impressed with the experience. And you talked about having a reason to get people to theaters and how, the Barbenheimer phenomenon sort of played into that, people dressing up. We see the same thing here. Now AMC is really sort of leveraging that. They're giving away posters and they have collectible cups and
Mm-hmm.
popcorn bins. We see that stuff all the time. Like now
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get more. You're really creating an experience. The only negative that I would, really throw at any of this is that the movie froze multiple times when I saw it. Like it was freezing, like a
Dang,
lot.
AMC.
It was strange. I don't know what was going on, but it was looking real rough there for a second. But beyond that, it was a really impressive experience. I'm not gonna go listen to Taylor on a day-to-day basis from now on, but I did walk away with a new appreciation. So I just kind of want to ask you, with like the Eras tour and then the Renaissance tour movie on the way, that's coming out in
Mm.
December. I mean, what do you see for the prospects of that and with Beyonce? Because we did both experience Renaissance in person, and I want to talk about that too in a second as well, just the concert of what Beyonce put together. But
Mm-hmm.
now that Taylor has sort of set the blueprint, at least for modern day recent memory concert films, and Beyonce is, pretty much neck and neck right there with her on having the
Mm-hmm.
biggest tour of the year. What do you foresee what that's going to look like when we show up to see the Renaissance tour in theaters, and how people are going to react and how much of a craze it's going to be, the conversation? I don't know if it's doing 96 million per se, but I still think it's
Yeah.
going to be a pretty massive opening, even for Beyonce, and she's going to break some records, for her tour and for concert films in general. But what's your outlook on what that might look like come December?
Yeah, I have a feeling that Beyonce's film is not going to make as much money as Taylor Swift. I'm going to put that out there right now. I think Taylor Swift is To be honest, she's a white girl.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah. That
she's
can't be denied that she is
she's a
to the
white girl.
masses on every level.
Yeah,
White girl catering to, yes, absolutely.
exactly. And I think the way Beyonce operates in such a high form of blackness, right? Maybe she was a little bit more lost in the sauce. Beyonce is not lost in the sauce. You know what I mean? And to be as black presenting and pro black as Beyonce is, I think she can only there is again, she's gonna continue to grow, right? That's still a thing, but there is a different kind of ceiling that she has than that Taylor Swift has. And that's part of the reason I think Taylor Swift's movie is going to make more money. Though I think both movies will be great. Don't get me wrong. Like I think Eras looks good to me. I think Renaissance is going to be crazy. Like if you can get better than Homecoming, because Homecoming is nuts to me. I think Homecoming is a very, 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 very good music concert slash documentary film. Then I think it's going to be kind of the same energy that you felt in that Taylor Swift room, man. I think it really people are going to want to relive Renaissance again. People are going to have their chrome on like they did. They're going to have their Beyonce shirts on. They're going to be fans in the movie theater making the damn noise that say heated on it. It's going to be absolutely absolutely ridiculous in these movie theaters because think about it. Black people already don't know how to act in normal movies. Like you can go see I don't know, a Tyler Perry film or a scary film that just a bunch of black people happen to go see, we already don't know how to act. We're already loud and yelling at the screen and doing. I absolutely believe Renaissance is going to be probably even crazier than Taylor Swift's was. Again, depending on how the film is presented, though, right? Like it sounds like if Renaissance is a little more documentary talking, you know what I mean? Not
Behind the
as much
scenes,
behind the
yeah.
scenes, not as much of the music in the concert. Then I can see it's okay, everyone's locked in and being quiet. But it sounds like the Eras Tour movie had a decent amount of music to it, right? A decent amount of views at the concert. If Renaissance is anything like that, then I think it'll be another good time in the theater. And I think people will show up and show out to be honest, very similar to how they did Barbie, right? Everyone had on their pink. I think Renaissance is very much part two. Everyone's gonna have on their chrome and their Beyonce stuff, and I think it's gonna be a good time, man. I was lucky enough to see the trailer for the Renaissance Beyonce because I went to the Kansas City show, which was the last show in which she premiered the trailer at the very end of her show, man. And I was like, yep. One, I know that movie's gonna be fire, but two, you're not going to be able to go see this movie opening night unless you buy your tickets right now. And lo and behold, that's what we have. And so that's my outlook, man. I think they're both going to be really good films. I feel like you'd have to be equal fans of both Taylor Swift and Beyonce to say which one will actually be better, if that makes sense. Like you got to be pretty unbiased because I know right now, I'm be like Beyonce's film is going to be better, but that's hella biased. You know what I mean? That's like, oh, that's a pretty biased opinion. So regardless, I think they both will be very successful, which we know Taylor Swift is already successful. And yeah, I think Taylor Swift will just make a little bit more money, but that is what it is.
Yeah, a thing that I did forget to add, the Eras concert film was just the straight concert. There was no behind the scenes, there was no
Mm,
talking heads, there was
mm-hmm,
nothing of that nature. But I think based off of what we have seen from Beyonce in the past, with the Homecoming film, with other films that she's done, she's a lot more experimental. I think she's a little bit more
mm-hmm,
artistic in her approach in that way, and in wanting to present something that has a little bit of a story that feels a little bit more cinematic. And even the trailer itself kind of points to that. Like there is
that's true.
behind the scenes
Mm-hmm,
footage in the trailer. So I think that it will feel different on a movie, sort of cinematic scale in terms of that. And look, you can't compare a live concert to only seeing the film. I did not go see
right,
Eras live, but I did see Renaissance live, and I guess just after viewing both of them, bias included, obviously, the Renaissance tour is a superior show. But
right,
that wasn't a surprise to me. I didn't go to the Eras movie
exactly.
thinking that it was going to all of a sudden, be this eye opening experience. Like, oh, that's actually the best concert of the year. Like, I never thought that because
Mm-hmm,
again, Taylor, in her music, it's more simple. And that's not a knock. That's not a pejorative. She makes love songs. She makes songs about her life. She makes songs
mm-hmm,
about relationships and all those things, that are difficult, that are complex, but that everybody can relate to. Those are things that
mm-hmm,
every gender, every race, every ethnic background, especially people that are white, who mostly consume her music are going to relate to. Beyonce has obviously evolved and grown into an artist with a lot of pro-black messaging, with a lot more of an artistic sort of bent in terms of what she's talking about and what she's pursuing in terms of her career ambitions. That's just the reality of the nature of the situation. So I think you're spot on with your assessment about the two. That's why they are still so different from each other. But what
Mm-hmm.
cannot be denied is, regardless of the numbers and who makes more or what makes more, they are still the top two, regardless. Like, that's
Exactly.
still like the top of the mountain. Nobody's coming close to what they are achieving on any level, live event or in person. I think
Mm-hmm.
I think Renaissance has already grossed over $500 million from box office receipts. It's only going to grow. She has more dates, I believe, coming at some point. I feel like she's going to extend it. I know the KC day was last, but I have a feeling she's going to do more. And then we
Yeah.
know Taylor Swift is going to go well into 2024. And who's to say she won't stop after that? Who's to say that she won't continue on after that? Because these stadiums continue to just sell out, and continue to just make all of this money. So when Renaissance come, it'll be a great time. Everybody's gonna get a chance to wear those outfits again. They probably thought, like, this is probably a one and done outfit. I might not ever wear
Nope.
this again.
Now
But
you
it's
can
like,
go to
no,
the movies.
you can go to the movies now. And I think it was interesting too, because as you said, like, tickets sold out for Renaissance really quick opening weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Already made about $6 to $7 million in the first day of pre-sales. Eras was very much similar to that, which is why I never even considered going at all
Mm-hmm.
until they added the Thursday night showings, which weren't initially on the slate. And then I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, now a spot opens up. I don't know if they'll do the same thing for Beyonce, but it's a great time. It's a great time for movies, especially in a season where it's been slow. It's just been a slow business. Movies have
Yeah.
gotten pushed back. Dune's not coming out. The Marvels,
Mm-hmm.
we're hearing, is tracking really, really soft. Aquaman might just be a train wreck for DC, the fourth train wreck of the year. We don't know. And the indie movies, the Academy movies are not going to make a ton of money.
Right.
So for theater chains like AMC or Regal, this is a really revitalizing time for them to have these
Mm-hmm.
experiences that people are going to spend money, because I think Eras will carry into November for like the next like 3, 4, maybe even 5 weeks. Then
For
Beyonce's
sure.
right on the heels of that. And that can take you
Mm-hmm.
all the way through Christmas and New Year's. And so you're doing pretty good for the rest of 2023 if you're a large movie theater chain. Before we wrap up this conversation, I do also want to give a good amount of time to Renaissance and Beyonce, because we both have seen that concert live. We have to see the film. We'll assess the film on how that is and how it translates to the concert once that does come out. I know we both have
Right.
tickets to see it, but let's start with you, man, because you most recently saw it just like a few weeks ago. I saw it back in July, so it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Take a second for me to sort of recollect my memories. But what were your overall thoughts about Renaissance and just Beyonce's presentation, and this really, I think, possibly being like her most ambitious concert tour that she's really ever undergone in her entire career, especially having about 5 to 6 years off of not performing live.
Oh man, I think anybody that's like, hey, I'm about to just go sell out football stadiums is crazy. Like Taylor Swift and Beyonce, even to say that up front is like, I don't, it's the most insane thing to me, knowing that you can just go sell out some football stadiums, not just one, but across the world.
And
Is
repeatedly, like night after
and
night, like we're gonna do this
repeatedly.
like 5 times in a row.
And
It's
there's never
ridiculous.
like empty sections, or like it's never quiet, or like the energy's never low. It's like, no, it is cracking in here. And that's exactly what Renaissance brings, man. This was already one of my favorite Beyonce albums when we talked about it when the album first dropped, man, because I was already listening to music in that realm. I was already listening to like 80s house disco kind of R&B vibes. And then Renaissance comes out and I'm like, oh, Beyonce's, we on the same wavelength right now. You know what I'm saying? And so the thing is about Renaissance is you said something you said it might be one of her most experimental tours or something like that, which it definitely is, but it's also the most loud. This is the most group participation slash I am about to rule the world tour that I have ever seen. One of the most memorable like tours on film that I've ever seen is like it was like one of Michael Jackson's 2000 and middle 2000s tours where he like opens the case with the glove in it and everyone is like crying. And we're like, hey, you're crying already. But this reminds me of that because the energy is that everyone understands who they're here to see. And it is absolutely Beyonce. Not only that, but she has created an album with so much pro LGBTQIA plus, you know what I mean? Energy, pro black energy, all of this she has a song on there called Church Girl. You know what I mean? She's like, it's an album that's like, I see everybody and I want everybody to be represented here and eating at the table with me, man. And that's what the concert felt like to me. It was like everybody can enjoy every song, everybody can enjoy every moment, man. And the thing that people do not talk about when they go into Renaissance, for to this day, every story I see is why nobody talking about how good the visuals are at this damn concert, bro. There are like these small, short snippets and videos and CGI clips put together that Beyonce's art team, video team, whatever, has made, and they are crazy. They look good. They're phenomenal. Beyonce also has like the two biggest screens you've ever seen at any stadium ever. You could be sitting in the back and see the screen clear as day. I've never seen screens look this good or be this big in my life, man. And I mean, everything is just it's firing on all cylinders. The visuals are there, like you said. Beyonce is doing all of this dancing. She has to slow down a little bit though, right? Like which is okay. Like she is getting a little bit older, and so she's not dancing as hard as she usually would in some previous tours, and that is okay because she's making up for it in so many other ways. She's still dancing, don't get me wrong. It's just dialed back ever so slightly. And so, man, to be honest, I could talk about this concert all day because it's that fire, and she was doing literally everything I expected her to do and more. Again, it was absolutely sensational. But man, it really is, I think, an eye-opening experience to say, like, you're right. Like, there's really nobody else can operate at this level right now at this moment, except for somebody like Beyonce, except somebody like a Taylor Swift, because unfortunately, this sounds terrible, but nobody else has it in them. Nobody else has been working since 1997
No, you're
like
right.
Beyonce has.
They
There's a
both
moment.
work incredibly hard to do
There,
this.
there's a moment in the show where Beyonce has to do a medley of more singles because she could not fit them in the show. Like she did some old songs too, for sure. But there's a moment she had to throw in like Cater to You and like Speechless and like all of these other songs in one song because she couldn't fit them in the show. She's like, "Whoop, I got to do a medley here," and she literally sings like 15 songs in 2 minutes. It's so ridiculous, man. And so I was just, to be honest, just blessed to be there. I think Renaissance is a different beast. It sounds bad, but it feels like a peak, right? It's like, how can you get better than this? It doesn't make any sense to me. And so again, if anybody can surpass it, it has to be herself. You know what I mean? Like she's the only person that can do it. But even if this was the peak, I'm like, well, you did it, Beyonce. I can't be mad at anything either. So man, I absolutely enjoyed myself. 13 out of 10 performance, 13 out of 10 across the board, singing, dancing, visuals, man. Enough people didn't record. I recorded every single video goddamn on that thing because they are amazing. And I wish we got to see that more often. Hopefully she throws them in the movie, man, because I thought they were pretty amazing, man. So Renaissance, Renaissance, Renaissance.
Yeah, she was peaking and peaking, like the peakingest peaking that you can do for anybody. I mean, that is a testament to just how bright her star is at this point. And
Yeah.
really, both Beyonce and Taylor Swift they're kind of in world conquering mode at this point. Like they know where they exist in the zeitgeist. They know the power that they
Mm.
possess, and
Mm-hmm.
they are absolutely leveraging that as they should. I mean, they deserve it, and that what you said towards the end of there really stands out. That this success did not come to either of these two individuals overnight. It's not like that this just happens to people. Like one, you have to be incredibly gifted and incredibly talented, something that just
Yeah.
has to be in you that is inexplicable. As I don't want to get religious, but as close as we can get to saying a gift from God, you have to have
Mm-hmm.
that. But then even more important is the work ethic and the amount of
Absolutely.
time and years and effort over and over and over that both of them put into their
Mm-hmm.
craft and their artistry. Like I said, Taylor Swift put
Mm-hmm.
out 4 albums in the pandemic. Who else was putting out music in the
That's
pandemic?
crazy. Four of them
Nobody. She
things.
was like, I'm just going to put out 4 albums. And she's also re-recording all of her earlier albums to get the masters because she's going through all that legal shit. So she's literally re-recording like
Oh yeah.
her first
Mm-hmm.
6, and those are performing even better than they did when they initially came out. And then conversely with Beyonce, we just know the type of workhorse that she is. She's always been that way. She's always been somebody to go above and beyond and to really do everything that it takes to make sure that she's putting on the absolute best performance in any given moment. That was really seen in the Homecoming film. You just saw
Mhm.
the mountain that she had to climb after giving birth to twins and what it took to get back to that level, to be on stage for 3 hours, performing in front of the biggest audience probably of her life at the
Mhm.
Coachella, sort of festival. And so to now transition to this moment, to now come back on a solo tour in which there's no opening act because there doesn't need to be. It's literally just her entire set. Seeing this back in the summertime was extraordinary. It was just an incredible experience. I've never seen Beyonce live. And so now is finally the time to push the button. It was like, all right, I've been putting this off long enough. I've wanted to see her live. I'm not
Mhm.
the number one Beyonce fan in the world, but I do enjoy a lot of her music and I do absolutely respect her above and beyond with everything that she does. And so I knew I always wanted to see her. And this felt like the moment. Renaissance really did feel like the opportunity, especially with the pandemic.
Yeah.
Things were looking really bad. They're like, we might not ever see any of this stuff again. And so getting the chance to see this live, it was extraordinary. It was amazing. It's one of the best live event concerts I've ever been to. And everything you said there, I can't really say much else to it because that is absolutely what that experience is. The visuals are on a different level entirely. The choreography from especially all of her background dancers was phenomenal. What stood out to me the most that took me by surprise, because I didn't spoil myself, I didn't look at any footage beforehand. I just wanted to experience it as completely clean as possible, was how she opened the show. She didn't open the show with this over the top number with 1,000 dancers on stage. And I don't know if this was the case at every tour, but at the New York, New Jersey show, she opened with just a completely vocal powerhouse performance. Like, she performed
Mhm.
3 or 4 of her strongest songs vocally in her catalog, just singing.
Dangerously in Love.
Dangerously in
Mhm.
Love, just sitting there at a piano with the most elegant dress you've ever seen in your life, just showing you why she has one of the most amazing voices on earth. And that's how we started. And in the first 20 minutes, and I'm like, oh, that's what we're doing? Like, this is the type of energy we're bringing tonight, and we still have like another 2.5 hours. I don't even know what we're in for. And she somehow was still able to surpass all of that and to just go to different levels with the concert. I mean, everything. I mean, the big stallion prop that was on stage that came out was
Yeah.
like, yo, what the fuck is this? Obviously, the outfits, the chrome, and that whole aesthetic, the visuals,
Mhm.
as you said. I mean, we're both, I think, into visuals, and so seeing that, a lot of people like took that moment to sit down, and it was like, yo, are
I was
y'all
standing up
witnessing
with
this? I'm
my camera in my hand.
like, yes, like these are mini movies that she's making right now.
Yes.
So I will note that the Eras tour, she had a similar setup with visual intermissions to
Mhm.
account for costume changes. It felt like they shortened those. I can't confirm that because I wasn't
Mhm.
there live, but it felt like that they shortened that section. I just hope that they don't do that for Renaissance. Like, I want to see those whole things in full again. But man, it was extraordinary. It's really the concert, I think, of our lifetimes, of our generation. When we grow up and when we get old and we have kids and grandkids, and we talk about, some of the best experiences of our lives, and they're back listening to Beyonce, we're gonna be like, yeah, we saw her. We got a chance to see her live. Like, that was a
Mhm.
a truly once in a lifetime experience. And so that's not saying anything new. Like, we're both sitting here saying what literally the entire world already feels. Like, everybody knows how amazing this show is. And so if you
Yeah.
didn't get a chance to see it, if you couldn't go in person, then yeah, the concert film is like the next best option. Please do that because it is worth it. And I think that you'll have a great communal experience. If you're not scared away by the cell phones and the singing and the cheering, if you can get past all of that and just like give yourself over to the experience, I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll have a really great time. So it's a really fascinating time in film. It's a even more fascinating time in concerts, and just the connection between those two and what that might look like in the future, and whether or not we may get some more of these films in the future from other artists who might perhaps embark on a similar endeavor. But we will certainly have to see. But folks, those are all of our thoughts about Barbie, Beyonce, Oppenheimer, Renaissance.